What's the most boring piece of advice that actually works?
Consistency is greater than intensity. Like you start a diet and or exercise in January and you give up by February, like that's intensity. You've gone to the gym 2 hours 3 times a week and you're like, yeah, I'm in it. It'd be a lot better to go to the gym 2 times a week just for 20 minutes, but do it for the rest of the year. So consistency is so important.
My guest today is Sam Scott, a man who spent 13 years inside Southampton Football Club, working his way up from academy intern to first team strength and conditioning coach. He's worked with elite athletes, managed high performance environments, and now he runs his own performance business, helping athletes and everyday individuals train smarter, recover better, and build sustainable strength. Today, we break down what he's learned about performance, discipline, burnout, and what it actually takes. Most people fear the moment that their original plan fails. How did that moment redirect you rather than derail you?
That's a good question. To answer that, I have to think, what is my original plan? I think if I went back to when I was younger, that was my original plan, was to be a pro footballer. Like most kids in their childhood want to, they watch football on TV, they have their idols, their role models, and they just want to like replicate that. And I remember being a Liverpool fan. Weirdly, I'm not a Liverpool fan anymore, but I just picked up the era of Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard, England, amazing players, and I was like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I want to be one of those. And that was my plan for years and years and years. I would sacrifice everything. I used to play Saturdays and Sundays. I wouldn't go out with my friends on a Friday night because I was like, nah, I want to be a footballer. And I managed to get all the way through to the point where I was 17 years old. I was playing semi-pro football. We were speaking just before we went live on this about like the identity of a footballer. That was my identity when I was a kid. I played in academies and all of my friends knew me as the footballer, and I was like, yeah, I want to be that person. And I got to semi-pro, playing decent amounts of games each week and starting to get paid money for it. And I was like, yes. And I got injured. I had a broken foot, and it was right at the time when my A levels were like 3 or 4 months away. And I was like, oh, this is a big decision right now. Like, I can't drive anymore. I just need to put all of my effort into my A levels because I don't think I've really got what it takes. Like, there are some talented players in the semi-pro, and I remember thinking I could go all in with football and just forget about my A levels and education and really work with it, or I can switch it up and just focus on being an elite sport in some way and really put my effort into being clever. Because I was a clever lad when I was younger. Like I could almost do it without much effort, which was handy. But that broken foot meant that I couldn't drive, couldn't go see my friends, so I just went all in with revision. And lucky enough, got a really good set of grades and managed to go to Loughborough University. And sort of my career in elite sport started from that moment. And then I suppose I haven't looked back since then. Like I spent 3 years at Loughborough doing sports science, learning loads of different aspects of sports science, and I progressed into going to Southampton Football Club, firstly as an intern, and then very quickly I progressed into being a full-time member of staff there, and that's where the biggest learnings of my life so far, other than having a kid, have come. So yeah, it was definitely a derailing of my dream of being a pro footballer, but there's always a silver lining to issues that arise, and you just gotta like work out where those silver linings are and then put all the positive thoughts that you have into those to progress yourself there. There's no point in the past having an effect on you. You want to just try and push to make sure the future is as good as possible, I suppose.
Can definitely see your redirection. You've hit this roadblock and you think, well, this is something I really want to know about actually, because you see this quite a lot with, like we were saying, when your whole childhood identity is the football kid, your whole plan is set on football, football, football. A lot of probably young, talented footballers don't even put any focus or effort into schoolwork, homework. There's even academies, like school academies and stuff, that are focused on football sports. And how do you remain calm and not lose hope when your childhood dream is kind of crossed off?
That's a really tough question. Like, I was at Southampton 13 years, and 8 of those years I was in the academy. I progressed to being like lead strength and conditioning coach in the academy. So I saw a lot of players pass through. Like in the Premier League now, Tyler Diblin is at Everton. I saw him when he was under 7 at Southampton, and all the way through until he got to whatever age he is now, 19, 20. And alongside him, he was the lucky one to, not lucky, he had a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but he was one of a large amount of players that haven't quite made it. And looking at the amount of effort and time they put into being in the academy is crazy. Like when we first started in sort of the 2012 through to 2016, some of the 9-10-year-olds would be in 4 nights a week training and then playing a game on a Sunday, and some of those would be living an hour away from the training ground. So there is a lot of evening time straight from school, straight to training, back home and pretty much to bed. So it's not just the identity, it's also like the whole of your life has been given to that. How they come out of that, there's definitely, from a football point of view, I think all football clubs of like especially from what I know of a certain category, so there's category 1s down to category 3 academies within football, and I know a lot more about the category 1 academies just because I've been inside them. There's a large amount of like player welfare that goes on there to make sure that they have the ability to progress in some other field or in some other way they can progress their life. There's a lot of life skills that go into it, so they've got a lot of presentations that come on. Like now that I've left Southampton and gone into my own business, they've actually asked for me to come back and speak about that, and so trying to teach the players that there is more out there than just football, but obviously their main goal is to be a footballer. So how they come back from it is all individual, isn't it? Like it depends on the role models around them, parents, other friends. Well, a lot of the players have just a solid group of friends that are footballers as well. Like because they spend, like I said, they've got 4 nights a week that are there, all their friends are footballers as well. So it becomes really hard for them to step away from that friendship group, maybe from an embarrassment point of view if they haven't been selected and the rest have. So it's a tough situation to be in. I think it's very individual how they get over it, but there's got to be some help from some role models and the football clubs around it as well.
I've seen a few clips of, like, unfortunately, some academy players. They've been brought into the office with the parents, and they basically just told these kids, "Look, we're gonna have to let you go." And these clips are very sad because you see, you can be as young as, like, I don't know how young they can get, but their dreams, their heart is just shattered in that moment, and that's a big thing for, as we say, it's a lot for someone to take on at such a young age. But like you said, there is a silver lining, and in your case, we see that everything that you've taken from originally chasing your dream of being a footballer, everything that you've learned in that aspect, and you've redirected it. What are you doing now?
So I own my own business now, which is crazy. Like I never thought I'd say that from a young age. I was always really wanted to be an elite sport, and I managed to get to that point in the academy and then progress into the first team. And then there was a stage in my life where I was like, right, okay, I think I've ticked this off the list and I want to go and try it on my own. I've always had that scratch that I wanted to itch, that there's so much to having your own business, the marketing, being good at what you deliver and your service and your product as well. And with how much time football can take from you if you work in there full time, I thought it was a good time, with the way that the land lied in the club that I was working at, that I could step away and try and do what I love doing at the football club by myself. So I remember reading a lot. I've got a lot of books that talk about like trying your own path, like, and seeing where you can go with it and not being stuck to just being in a job. Can you go and find a different way of doing something that you love. And there's parts of being in football that I loved, and I thought, right, can I take those and make that 100% of my job rather than only the 20% that was in the job at that moment in time. I was very fortunate. I've got a good backing from my family that were happy for me to take the risk. And then I thought, well, I love coaching. Coaching is by far the most important thing to me. The player to coach relationship was really important, and being able to take my skill set, which I thought was pretty good, or I think is pretty good, to the local community, pro footballers, semi-pro footballers, and other athletes as well. It doesn't have to be football, and develop them from a strength and conditioning point of view, so power, strength, and speed. I thought, yeah, I reckon I can do that, and take an elite environment and put it into the local community. That's my aim, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Like, it's been fun.
Why is being physically capable a form of self-respect?
Oh, I don't even know if it's physically capable, isn't it? But it's the like that path to being physical is what gives you self-respect. Like, you're trying to develop yourself, which, as long as you are staying consistent with that, there's going to be a level of self-respect that comes from it. I remember being with the players at Southampton, especially in the first team, where it's an elite environment and they're all trying to develop themselves. You could tell the players that were really pushing themselves in the gym and trying to improve their physicality and improve other areas like nutrition, and being really focused on nutrition. They always had a greater confidence about them. Allowed them to push harder, I think, and maybe even sometimes like speak their mind more. There's like this maybe this evolutionary thing of like, I'm stronger, I'm able to look after myself a little bit more. Maybe that's in there, but I do think there's more of like a self-development perspective. Like, I feel confident in myself because I'm progressing myself, and you get hormone releases, you get the endorphins of exercise, you get serotonin and dopamine from like having done something, and all of those hormone releases are going to build confidence in you anyway. So yeah, there's a level of physicality really affects your confidence in a positive way, definitely.
Do you see a lot of positive effects of physical exercise that are transferable to other aspects of life too?
For sure, yeah. There's only like even just physical exercise and focus and cognitive ability in schools and so on, like doing certain initiatives where PE, for example, is so simple, in that like 2 hours of PE a week is a minimum, should be more, but that allows focus to the kids. If you're working 9 to 5 and if you're working 9 to 5 and you actually go to the gym, exercise, go for walk and talk meetings, and get out in nature, you're going to have a much better effect on your cognitive load and being able to focus, for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and team sports as well. Like, you're very involved with football, but you have individual sports and you have team sports, and it's about being able to cooperate with your team members and stuff like that. What positive things do you think team sports would teach young kids from a young age? Like, why do you think it's important for a young kid to get involved with a team sport?
Well, the main thing is social factor, isn't it? Like, being able to talk to different personality types. There's so many different people in the world, like extroverts, introverts. Being able to be a chameleon, I suppose, in some way, like being able to change the way you are to fit into that person and try and get them on your side. Because some people are happy to not be the same as other people and be completely different. Fair enough. I respect those people. But also on the other side, people, if they want to get buy-in from someone, are probably best to like slip in and be a little bit similar to that individual, because you're going to get that rapport, and rapport is really important. Like, I remember whenever I work with a player at Southampton, and in my own business now, there has to be that link that I'm trying to find, like always asking questions, trying to find how do we have similarities that we can talk about and we can build that rapport. my job is all about development. Like, can I develop someone physically for first and foremost, and then after that, it's all about can I help them with progression in their life to some extent. Like, there's some, like anyone knows, with a PT or an athletic development trainer, there's going to be some life questions that go in there and you talk about. So that's pretty cool as well. But with development, it's all about listening for sure. Like, trying to understand what position they're in and what they want to do, and a little more individualization about what they need, especially from a physical side, individualization of what they need. And that's for sure what my business is all about. Like, I'm taking the skills of assessment and monitoring that I've seen in an elite environment and trying to progress that into exactly the same for local business, local athletes, to enhance my business. And it seems to be working. Like, I get lots of good results, a lot of people that are happy with the progressions, and it's that connection between two individuals that I think is the most important thing, building up a positive rapport with someone. That is very important.
So you're working with some of the highest level athletes you possibly could. Professional footballers have incredible fitness and they have to go through some incredible physical endurances and stuff like this. And for you, that's a position that you would have originally have wanted to be in. Do you find it difficult sometimes being able to coach players, considering that that's where you would have originally wanted to have been? And do you find sometimes it's hard to get players to listen to you, considering that you're not in their position?
That was one of the biggest. So, not in the academy. Academy was fine. Academy's like you're a teacher in theory. Like, you get respect from being an adult and they're a kid or a child. You get more respect from knowing your stuff, and if they feel like they are benefiting from you, then perfect as well, fine. But you can tell them what to do, and they sort of have to do what you say.
Yeah.
When you get to the first team, this was my first experience of it. So just after COVID, I moved into the first team, and they're an adult, you're an adult. Like you said, there has to be some level of respect for them to be able to take what you say and do it, to try and improve them, which I found really interesting and also really hard, because I moved into the first team and there was lots of people that were very good at it. There was a lot of personal connection that I could see from coaches to players, and I was like, oh, I really want to get into that. Like, that's spot on. So I'd watch for a little bit and see how they do it. And it was just like, time is a big factor, isn't it? Like, the more time you spend with someone, the more you can talk to them, have that rapport, have a joke and a laugh. So that was something that I was struggling with anyway, because I was new into the first team. But I took some approaches, which at the time I thought were small. But in the end, when I look back, I actually think that's probably the first thing that allowed me to sort of develop my personal touch with some of those players, which is why some of them still train with me now. And my first little intervention was, they always get drinks after training. So they have a protein shake or a carb drink or water or whatever it is, like a hydro tab, after training. And they always go into the changing room, and then they're asking pretty much someone for drinks. And it sounds so small, but I was like, I need to get in that changing room and be around them as much as possible. So I'd take on myself. It normally was like the work placement student or the intern that would go in, but I was like, no, I'll take it on myself to take all these drinks in. And then it just gave me this opportunity to be like 5 to 10 minutes in the changing room with them. And over time, it only took like 2 weeks, but over time, then it started to bring the rapport in with a lot of the individuals. Like, it was a real key part of that process of trying to make sure I become like friendly with them, because when you get to first team, it's all about influence rather than being a teacher. You're maybe shouldn't be a friend. I found myself in the end becoming friends, because that's what happens when you spend time with people who are good people, and then with that, you're just trying to influence from there. So make sure they respect you, because you understand your area of expertise, and you can give them information that they're going to take, which I for sure was trying, and hopefully they do respect my opinion, and then push as hard as you can to try and get them to do the thing that you think is right for them. I remember we used to do value sessions, like create the Southampton values, and we were in one of the meetings where you sit on a massive table. There's 8 people. It's like 200 people in this massive room, and I was sitting on one of the tables with Jason Wilcox, who was the director of football at Southampton. And one of the they were talking about what values we were going to do, and he came up with a phrase of demanding and caring, and I thought, oh, that's really. And we started talking about it, and then I was like, oh, that really fits with the way I feel like I should be. Like, care is so important to anyone to be able to buy into what you think is important and what you think is going to develop them. But with care, you can be sometimes a little bit soppy, can't you? A little bit not allow them to do things maybe they shouldn't do because you're putting across a sort of care approach. Whereas the demanding factor is, okay, no, this is so important to you. You have to do this, but this is because I care for you that you have to do this.
Balance of discipline and compassion, isn't it?
100%.
Over compassion is toxic. It's why people, like, in the long run, if you don't tell them that they need to start exercising because they're putting on some weight, they're going to have health detriments in the long run. And people don't like to tell stuff that makes them feel insecure and uncomfortable, but sometimes some people just need to hear bad news. And another thing I'm really interested in with regards to what was your position at Southampton is responsibility. Now, these players, this is their career, and there's a lot of money in football. There's a lot of high expectation in football. There's fans who have expectations, and it's ultra high competition. Did you feel highly responsible for the position that you were in, for the welfare of your players, and did you feel responsible for their overall health and fitness in general?
Yeah, 100%. There's a massive pressure on making sure that a player is fit enough to play in the Premier League, first of all, but also not pushing them too hard that they become injured. Like, we're talking, sometimes you're on a one-on-one with a £20 million player. So it's not just a pressure of like, oh, you might upset a fan at the weekend because he's not playing. It's also like, he earns a lot of money a week, and if he's out for 12 weeks, then that's a lot of money the club are paying and not getting any reward for it. So there's this real fine balance between pushing them really hard to be able to perform at their best, but also protecting them as well to make sure they are still performing. And don't get me wrong, we've got a lot of monitoring tools, a lot of expertise they had in the building as well that allowed you to make as good a decision as you possibly could of what you should be doing on the pitch. And through experience, you sort of know what is a really tough session, what is not, and then what you should be doing before and after, just from mistakes you've made. Like we said before, mistakes are essential to learn, aren't they? So it's definitely one of those where you have to push, but have as many bits of technology and monitoring tools as possible to make sure you are not pushing to the extreme. Like we spoke about earlier, like overtraining is a big factor within injury risk and also some burnout purposes. So
it's a topic I actually really want to go into there, because, like, you have to push through pain to have any sort of growth. Like you said, you don't grow in comfort, you grow in discomfort. And if you want to improve your cardiovascular endurance, then you're going to have to keep running when your body's screaming stop. And there's a very, very fine line. Sometimes your body screams to stop just because you're growing, and sometimes it screams to stop because you actually need to, like, really stop. What are some early signs of overtraining?
Well, like you said there, some more like pain within certain areas. Like if you're a runner, sometimes it's in the heel, sometimes it's in the knee, sometimes it's in the Achilles tendon. There is a lot of sleep deprivation. Like, you tend to have issues with sleep when you're overtraining. Like, you can't get to sleep, or you wake up early, or you have lack of time sleeping, which is something definitely to be aware of. Lack of motivation to do the activity that you want to do tends to happen because burnouts occur normally mentally more than anything. And that's where variety then can come in to try and like affect that. So if you are a runner, then changing it up if you're still trying to develop that cardiovascular system, then going on the bike, or rather just trying to change that approach, maybe even just going to strength training for a little bit more to have something different to focus on. It really affects the cognitive load that comes from burnout or overtraining. But alongside that, sometimes, just rest is going to be important, because if you get those signs of not wanting to do it, pain and lack of sleep, then you're probably in a place that needs to have some kind of rest. And there's so many people, especially in the elite world, that will just keep on pushing through. And 7 times out of 10, those people won't get injured. But there is a higher chance when you're pushing through those kind of issues that an injury may occur. And that's, again, like we were saying before, quite an important factor in elite sport, especially in football, where I'm from, obviously.
Yeah, there's definitely, I've noticed there's quite a few people who say burnout is a myth and it's just a poor mindset for him to think of burnout. But can you give me a reason why burnout is definitely real?
Can't give you a reason. I've seen it so often though.
Yeah.
Like from under from under nines all the way through to first team. If you're in the first team at 18, that could be 10 years of training and playing. And like we said earlier, that's like could be 6 to 8 hours of training a week throughout the whole of your 9 through to 18, and then match on the weekend. So many people get to the point where they're sort of like 23 in the first team and then the love of football has dropped a lot and diminished. Like, it's not burnout in terms of what we're talking about there, injury and lack of sleep, so on, but there's sort of this cognitive burnout that actually now football is just a job rather than something I enjoy, and it was the hobby that I loved before. And that's because there's so much time that's gone into it and pressure to do it. It's not a choice anymore. There's no autonomy within it. It's just, I have to do it. I've been told by my parent throughout my whole of my childhood that I have to do it, and now I'm in a job and we tell as coaches, like, you're gonna have to go out on the pitch now, like, and they have to do it. So there's just not a choice anymore. It just becomes, this is what I have to do, and I'll do it because I'm told I have to do it. And so that can definitely develop burnout, and that's what I've seen. Sometimes it's not, that makes it sound like it's everywhere. It's definitely not everyone. There's a lot of love for the game still in football, but there are certain cases where it's not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that burnout is just physical as well. Like, people don't think that, like, cognitive mental stuff actually uses enough energy to burn you out. But I saw this thing that was crazy, and I didn't even know this. The amount of calories that a chess player burns in a game is insane. I think in a proper game of chess, a professional chess player will burn something between, like, I can get fact checked on this, but between like 5,000 and 10,000 calories. And that's just with
Mentally working,
brain power. It's just mad. But burnout definitely exists.
I had it.
Yeah.
So I worked for 13 years at the club, and by the last sort of like 3, where I'd been in football for so long and spent so much time in football, I never used to watch Premier League games anymore, other than Southampton, where I was there actually in the stadium. And unfortunately, I'm a Luton fan, so sometimes I was watching Luton games as well. Other than that, I wouldn't watch any other football. And that is so different to what I was like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was watching everything. Doesn't matter what game it is, Champions League, Premier League, it could be even a League 2 game, I'm watching it. I just didn't want to watch any more football. I was done with it. And now I've been out of football for coming up to a year, so about 10 months now. I've finally started putting Man City versus Liverpool back on and been interested in the transfers and so on. Like, it's crazy that it takes that time to get out of that. And that was cognitive burnout. It's not physical, obviously. It was just my brain didn't really want to see it anymore because it sees it every day. And it was like, right, okay, I've got other things that I can do instead of watching football now, because so much time has been invested into that, and now it's slowly getting out, which is nice.
If the symptoms of burnout start showing and the big red alarm sign saying burnout starts flashing, and you have a button underneath it that says fix me, what are the best ways to start repairing yourself in a stage of burnout?
Sleep, rest, enjoyment. yeah, there's just I don't think there's any point in trying to like push into uh unless it's like injury wise, obviously then there's stuff you can do from an exercise perspective to try and offload that injury. That's part of a physio and also an S&C skill set. So yeah, definitely try for that. But from a cognitive burnout perspective, just give it some time. Like get away from what you're burnt out from. What is the, unless you're like an elite athlete and you are meant to be doing that sport or that movement, do you really need to keep on doing it right now? Like, is there a need for you to run that 15 miles you just have in your head for tomorrow? Unless it's got the marathon, you got the marathon in 2 weeks' time, and you have to train for it. And I understand it. Then yeah, fine. But other than that, like you can rest. There is a possibility to rest and try and offload it. But burnout, I'm definitely not an expert, will be a accumulation of not just the sporting factor. It's going to be stress from work and lack of sleep because you're sorting out the lunches for tomorrow for the kids and then having to do the rest of your work that was in for the next day and then going to bed and then waking up early because, and so there's going to be all of these factors that really collide which cause it, and then you're trying to train on top of it. And if people don't want to give up training, I understand that completely. But then there's some cool fixes around that as well, like exercise snacking has been something that has been brought up loads in the recent literature. So
what is that, exercise snacking?
You don't have to exercise for 45 minutes to an hour to get benefits. Like there's been shown in research that even just from exercising for 5 minutes and doing anaerobic exercise of just 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and doing that for the 5 or 6 times, you're going to get small increments in like VO2 max. And it's trying to push that agenda of like time is actually quite valuable now. And if you feel like you can't put a whole training session in, then maybe you can just put in 6 minutes. Well, you can just put in 6 minutes and still get benefits from it. And it's just trying to change that mindset of I don't need to be there for an hour. I can get small benefits for this. But people enjoy the hour because they've got this set thing in their mind. This is my splits. I need to do my run first, then I need to go to row, and then I need to do my upper body stuff and so on. And if I can't do all of that, what's the point in going? That's polarization. There's no need to be like either this or this. You can hit somewhere in the middle, and that in the middle is just hit some, get your heart rate up. That's the most important thing. Move, and you're going to get some hormone release. Then those endorphins are going to fly, and that makes you feel good afterwards for sure. There's so many times where I might have had a day at home because I'm doing stuff on the computer for my business, and I just need to feel good and just go into the gym for 20 minutes if I've got that small little gap, doing some kind of heart rate raiser. I come out thinking, oh, thank God I've done that. Like that's so nice. Like, and it wasn't anything I'd planned. It was not lowers, it wasn't uppers. It was just get a sweat on and feel good for it, and that's it. Done.
There's a selection of people which people out there who are so driven and they have entrepreneurial ideas, they're ambitious, they want to train hard, improve their physicality, grow a business, maybe they're working a job at the same time, they're trying to do a lot of things. The saying is spreading yourself so thin over a lot of things. And you've seen both physical burnout and mental burnout. But for these people, they don't want to put it down. In their head, they think, I've just got to keep going, push through this burnout, keep going. I've got to put everything into it, have late nights, have early mornings. This is how we hear it said from like some of the most successful people in the world. They say it took a lot of years of late nights and early mornings and lack of sleep, and the likes of David Goggins and stuff say this, right? What would you say to that kind of person when they're experiencing things like burnout?
It's a really interesting one because like it has been proven that people have gone through it and done it and come out the other end and had a real positive success from it. Like we were saying about the academy though, there's the same kind of concept of there's people that get through and reach the first team. There's a lot of people that don't. And whether you want to risk that is probably the question. Like, which again, a lot of people do. I would probably say that I would go on the side of trying to be mentally healthy rather than successful in the business. I think that's where I'm heading to with my stuff. I'm very fortunate to have a good set of people around me that I can talk to. They can be my rubber duck. So I think that's a NASA term, isn't it? They have a little rubber duck on their desk, and so
Right.
if they have an idea, they
I
talk
like
to the
that.
rubber duck. Yeah, and so even people that don't understand my area that I work in, I can still talk to like my girlfriend. I can still talk to her, and she will listen. And then just from me talking through that process, I've suddenly managed to come up with my own answer, but I've spoken out loud because sometimes you get really lost in your thoughts. I have to, before I go to bed, write down everything that I've got to do tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm lying in bed thinking, I've got this and then this and then this. And I've had times before where it feels like 100 things are going around my head, but I'll write them down. It's actually only 6, but just things just escalate in your head to different things. And as soon as you write it down, you're like, bang, all right,
I
that's
suppose you can
sorted now.
only hold one thought at a time, right? And so,
And it goes so detailed. That one thought goes into
yeah,
like 16 different things, which aren't really that essential, but it's
yeah,
like, okay, but then you write it down, it's only 6 really important
yeah.
things. And you're like, okay, now that's cleared out of my head. That's going to be sorted for tomorrow. I'm not going to forget that. Let's go and have a good night's sleep. Um,
Would you say that, because I love to journal myself. Been doing it for years now. I think I've completed, like, I think I've done 4, like 300-page journals because I just love to just get it on there. And I found it's just brilliant for maintaining your mental health and, like you said, like keeping yourself organized and understanding why you think the way you do and what you're actually thinking. We just have thoughts. We don't actually understand what we're thinking about. There's the rapper Dave. He has a bar in one of his songs that say people have thoughts but they don't think. And I think that journaling practice allows you to think, and I think it's just extremely beneficial to build a habit of that. Do you think that's preventative of burnout for you?
100%. Yeah. It's the first, when I started my business, it's the first time I actually had notebooks. And I don't journal as such, but I write to do list every day. Like, and I guess that might be journaling, but writing down those to do lists all the time really helped me with clarity of where I'm going. And then the beauty is I can look back on the last like 10 weeks worth of to-do lists, and then I can find things that I've forgotten about that I can re-add to the to-do list because I haven't ticked them all off. I'm never going
Yeah.
to get to the point where I've ticked them all off. But as it just keeps on rolling day to day, new things come on. I forget about the things that obviously aren't essential. Otherwise, I would have remembered them. And
Yeah.
then it just keeps on working. And you can go back and be like, oh, yeah, actually, I can restart that because I'm at a better place now. So, yeah, it's really handy for me to stay focused and have clarity in my business and my thoughts for sure.
What about sleep? I hear a lot about sleep nowadays. I go to the gym a lot, weightlifting a lot, and for a long time I just stagnated, stopped seeing progress. I thought I was eating enough, and I was progressively overloading, making sure I was lifting heavier each session on each exercise, but I wasn't sleeping well enough. I thought I could run on 5 6 hours, average 6 hours a week. I got Whoop on, he tells me that, and I thought that was fine. But now I have started to sort out my sleep, and I've really started seeing progress. What's going on there?
So the studies that I know of, and again, it's not my expertise, but the studies that I know of is anything there's been shown that under 7 hours sleep is up to 14% increase in mortality rate, so in risk of death. So sleep is so essential to your body to recover and to develop muscle mass if that's what you're going for, to be able to restore red blood cells, to be able to regenerate your brain, also send the hormones into the body that is needed. So the initial part of sleep is all about hormone regeneration. You're going to get loads of growth hormone that's going to be pushed into your body at that initial part of sleep, and as it progresses through the night, then you're going to start to go into REM, the rapid eye movement, which is then allowing for like cognitive freedom. So that's when the dream states happen, and you're trying to rid all of the previous days knowledge, I suppose, and so on, to be clear for the next day. But that initial start point of that hormone release is so important for muscle mass development, for fat mass reduction. And if you're not getting that full quota of sleep up above 7 hours, then there's going to have issues, and there's not going to be beneficial to you, I suppose.
That's what you were saying there about the REM sleep and how it kind of rids. It's like when you turn a computer off. I think is it called the cache?
Oh, yeah.
It's the bit where it just stores like temporary data, and that's kind of why we dream too, right? It's, we relive that, and then we keep what we need to, and that's reflecting on our dreams, and then the rest just see you later. Why is diet so overcomplicated today?
I think diet is highly overcomplicated because of so much information that's out in the world now. There's such a huge knowledge base through social media that you can find pretty much anything that's going to push the agenda that you have or your thoughts that you have. So it ends up being a need to be able to dismiss some of the information now rather than get it. When I was younger, you had to like read encyclopedias and so on to try and find information and go and speak to specialists and so on. Whereas now anyone can tell you anything, and if it fits what you want to hear, then there's cognitive bias, and I'm gonna take
There's
that
a lot
information.
of that,
So that becomes overcomplicated, especially because people have their opinions and they'll fight against other people, and then you just don't know what to believe, especially if you're just the general pop that just wants to understand food. But that is also hard because the food landscape is so crazy now. Like, do I pick the high protein cereal bar here, or do I just go with fruit? But fruit has fructose in it, and fructose increases fat mass through the liver, doesn't it? And this, people hear this and they ask you questions like, fruit is one of the most natural things you can have. How can you start to question whether it's going to be making you fat, and compared to some of the other things you're putting through your body, which is like protein bars and so on. Like, sometimes we have to go, in my eyes, you have to go back to sort of like the whole food approach. I used to always think when like I heard people on Instagram talk about, oh, it's just about calorie deficit, and I was like, it used to annoy me. It used to annoy me so much because I was like, that's like saying, it's like a football manager saying it's just about scoring one more goal. It's like, well, that's obvious, isn't it? It's about the tactics behind how you score that goal, which is going to be the important thing. But now I understand it, why they're saying that, because like you said, people make things so much more complex. Like, just eat less food, try not to make it processed as much as possible, and you should be in a good place. Like, and there's so many calculators out there to understand how much calories you're meant to have in your body. Obviously it's an estimate, so be aware of it, but then just try and stick to those kind of calories in that amount of food. The more you go into trying to calorie count through apps and stick to a reduction diet, like take out carbs and so on, I just think the more you're going to lose control at some point. And just trying to get used to not needing sugar all the time. Just have little bits here and there. Don't just reduce it out, but just have small amounts, and go through that fight in the brain to not have more. Put some tactics in place. I used to use like chewing gum.
Right.
As soon as I put mint in my mouth, didn't want anything else, because it's like,
suppresses your appetite.
Exactly. So, or have something like a apple ready to go. We were talking about James Clear earlier with Atomic Habits, and there's that habit stacking approach of like, if I have something like that, then I know straight after I'll do something else. So I'll put a mint in or something like that. If I have 2 bits of the chocolate bar, then I put a mint in afterwards. That's my habit stack, and then I know that's going to reduce the likelihood that I'm going to eat any more after that. It's simple. Like, we do simple things here, like having a bowl for dinner rather than a plate, because a bowl you can only put a certain amount in, and it looks stupid if you overfill it.
Interesting.
So it's just,
I quite like that. That's I quite like that. That's cool.
It's just little ways of in coaching, it's called a constraints-led approach. Like, you constrain certain things to get an outcome, rather than tell someone. You actually just put it in the physical environment, tangible environment. Like, to stop people putting hands in the peanuts at bars anymore, you then put it in a jar that you can't stick your hand in. You have to pour it out.
Get you.
And so on. So like,
would you call it? Sorry.
Constraints-led approach.
Okay.
So,
and they do that. They do this. They help when helping people with like addiction and stuff as well, right? They do like physical constraints to help them actually as like a barrier. You can't get to that now. Am I right in saying that as well? Yeah.
Like there's so many good examples of it. Like they wanted people to use the stairs. I think it was in Germany, in like an underground in Germany somewhere. So they decided to put piano keys on the stairs so you would make music as you walked up it. And rather than telling people to be active, they've made something that pulls them towards it. It was the same. I think it was in Amsterdam airport. It was famous for. The cleaners were absolutely disgusted with how much the toilets were a mess, because mainly in the male toilet, people were missing the urinals. So they put little flies, the picture of a fly on the back of the urinal. And just by putting a fly in there, everyone was aiming for it. And then so it ended up, cleaner ended up not having to do much anymore.
It's just like the McDonald's bin that you say at the end of the drive-through. I don't know when the last time you would have been to McDonald's was. It's been a while for me, but they'd have like a little target in the bin, the little red target, so that and if you miss it, you just want to get it in. And there was another, supermarkets. I think this is a government regulation, but if you go into any supermarket, I think the majority of supermarkets are under this regulation. The first section you'll ever come to is fruit and veg.
That makes sense, yeah.
Because then you're more tempted to buy fruit and veg, and they keep the bad stuff
as far away as possible.
Yeah, or more discreet, so that people are less tempted to buy the bad stuff. And yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, I'll agree with you. You got to have some like self-regulation too. Like these things are so accessible, and diet's very overcomplicated. We hear so much about diet nowadays, but I also think it's very complicated and difficult to avoid all the stuff that, like, the food industry is overall very unhealthy nowadays. Like, sugar is just pumped into everything. There's lots of seed oils, they're not very good for you. All of this overall packaged food, it contains stuff that's not very good for you. What is the most like simple way, would you say, to just make sure that you can like eat as healthy as possible and avoid all the bad stuff?
Being organised, but for sure. We try our hardest to make sure that we have made things on a Sunday ready for the rest of the week. As soon as you start to trust shops and like on the go foods that are in supermarkets and so on, it's really hard to pick healthily. So for sure, I'm always one for being as organised as possible. I make everything I can on a Sunday to last me throughout the week, and that allows me then to try and stay on the straight and narrow and not to progress into processed food world. But then it's tough. We're literally just talking about, I've just had some Persian food today, and it was so like fermented foods and like all this amazing stuff that was inside this bowl that they gave us. And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be amazing to be able to make that for every day? But that's tough. Like, there's so much preparation that has to go into that to be able to do it, which is always going to be an issue. So making it as simple as possible as well. I'm not going to lie, I buy 4 types of vegetables and I repeatedly eat those vegetables every day, because otherwise you've got 16 different types of vegetables inside your fridge and you end up not using them because of just time and effort and so on. So I've gone for the simple approach and realised that people are telling me, and I understand and agree, 30 different types of fruit and veg a week, or portions of fruit and veg a week, are going to be essential. I've realised that I would rather eat good amount of fruit and veg and be able to prepare it solidly and not get worried about it going off in the fridge, and just like sort it out and take that hit of not being able to get the rest. Because I think people just get where individuals are telling you probably the right thing, it's really hard to sometimes put that into action. And so just knock it down a level or two and then get that sorted. And then maybe if I then get really good at time and enjoy cooking it every single day, then I might be able to push to that 30 portions a week. But at the moment, I ain't going to get it. I know I'm not. So why didn't I not try it? I'm not going to. Or sometimes people just reject it, don't they? Because they're like, okay, I can't do that, so I'm not even going to listen to any of that.
Biases again,
Sit in the middle somewhere.
If you could strip away all the chitter chatter about diet, you go from carnivore diet to vegan, 2 polar opposites, and you got all this diet chat in the middle. And you could strip it back down to the nutrients. What actually matters?
Eating colourful plate for sure, because you
Mm.
know as soon as you get different colours, and that's something that even I'm talking about like 4 or 5 vegetables, like trying to make them as different colours as possible. The thing that matters is fibre for sure. I think people forget about fibre. It's so important for your gut health. Fibre allows for simple passing of all of the food you're putting inside you, so you don't get blockages, let's put it. Making sure that you have, it's so simple and always said, isn't it? That sort of healthy plate of, you're going to have some carbs, especially if you're an athlete, there's going to be some energy needed. So it's the amount of times I've seen people, even in an elite environment, trying to like stay away from carbs completely.
It's that keto diet.
Yeah, but even just like reducing carb, like keto would be the name of like completely getting rid of it. But people really wanted to stay away from carbs, thinking it's like the enemy. Like they've just got such a bad name, and they're so essential for energy, especially if you're not in ketosis. Which, like, if you go into keto diet and you manage to put no carbs into your body, then you're going to go into ketosis. It's another way of creating energy within your body. Normally, you have glucose that your body wants to use for energy, and that's what comes from carbohydrates. Ketosis is, in theory, no glucose is in your body, and your body creates a different way of producing energy. But if you put even a small amount of carbs back into your body, then ketosis is gone, and you're just back to using glucose again. So it's a real hard like balance of holding ketosis in your body. So reducing carbs is an idea for sure, but I think more than anything, you need that energy. That glucose is essential for your brain to function properly. It's essential for your muscles to function properly. Alongside that, like, you store water well with the glycogen that comes in, and water is obviously essential for your body as well to work at its maximum. So a healthy plate of a standard amount of carbs, a standard amount of vegetables, and a standard amount of protein is the way to go, as long as it's not overcoming your calorie deficit. I mean, it is pretty simple. It's just how to put things in place to make sure that happens, rather than overeating all the time. So the bowl, for example.
What about protein?
Yeah, protein is essential for sure.
How much should one have on average a day?
It depends on who you listen to. So we would push for an athlete to be 1.4 to 2 grams per kilo of protein a day. That's a large amount. So if you're a 100 kilo athlete, then the upper range of 200 grams of protein a day is a lot of protein. Yeah. But then you listen to some of the research coming from like longevity, and they say that actually a good amount of protein is only sort of like 0.8 to 1.2 grams. So if you're not an athlete, stick in the lower ranges. And I don't know the research amazingly well, but it was one of the reasons why I changed my diet to a more plant-based diet, was from listening to people like Dr. David Sinclair, who has a podcast on longevity, and listen to some of his research that was based in it, that how you don't want to activate the mTOR in the cells. The more mTOR gets activated in your cells, then the more likely it is that disease and illness can occur. So keep your protein levels at a low level. But then there's other individuals that say you can shoot it higher and higher. But I ended up being on a plant-based diet, and still do live on a plant-based diet, mainly because of health reasons, and trying to sustain that kind of longevity approach, rather than the in here and now athlete approach.
You see lots of we've spoken about this before, but there's quite a lot of sportsmen who have moved to plant-based diets. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, is one of the most well-decorated bodybuilders in history. I mean, the man was pure. Was he vegan at the time, or he moved to it more
I
recently?
think he moved to it more recently, yeah. But there's a lot of athletes that are now plant-based, yeah. Along like from endurance all the way through to weightlifting into bodybuilding, and like strongmen as well are plant-based, yeah. And it's just like, it's a little bit more education, isn't it? We talk about a healthy plate, that we were just saying, like meat, carbs and veg. that's easier to understand. We're going back into like the complexity that we were talking about before. It does come a little more complex with a vegan or a plant-based diet. So if you're motivated to do it, then there's a lot of information that's out there to make sure you hit all of your amino acids. I mean, it is quite simple in the end. It's just people.
It's a transition.
The transition is tougher, yeah, for sure. You can't just separate your macros. Like, it's harder to just have protein on your plate, if not nearly impossible as a plant-based diet, which definitely puts people off. So carbs tend to come with protein, fats tend to come with protein when you're in a plant-based diet, compared to just being able to have lean protein. It's pretty rare.
What's the most boring piece of advice that actually works?
The one that like I believe in is that consistency is greater than intensity. Like, you start a diet or exercise in January and you give up by February, like, that's intensity. You've gone to the gym 2 hours 3 times a week and you're like, yeah, I'm in it. It'd be a lot better to go to the gym 2 times a week just for 20 minutes, but do it for the rest of the year. Like, so consistency is so important. So that's probably the most boring advice that you can give. And eat a healthy plate with in a calorie deficit. That's pretty much that's the annoying stuff. It's not got the detail and the jazz of Instagram and social media, but it's generally the way it should be, isn't it? As long as you eat less and exercise a bit, then you'll be all right.
It's very trite, but yeah, the consistency is key. It's the saying that everyone says, but I think it's just so true, isn't it? It's like there are going to be days where you don't feel like going, and that's where the discipline comes in. Like with the gym, you're not going to feel like going every day. That motivation is going to fade, and it's about being consistent there. But like you said, if you're going 2 hours a day, feeling pumped 3 days a week, and then after 1 month you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to do this, burnout, man.
It's to do with the barriers though, isn't it? Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's early morning, I can't bother because it's cold outside. I don't even want to walk to my car, get in the car, and then go down. So there's a massive barrier that is just me and cold at that point. There's nothing to do with the gym. So having a backup, I do it quite regularly. I have a backup in house where I know that if I wake up, then I've got this little 20-minute exercise that I can do here and feel at least like I've done something. I've got a few weights.
Yeah.
And I've got some videos that I can work with as well, and my motivation really fails, so that there's just like a level of exercise that happens. Like, if you know that barrier is going to arise, then have some backups to allow you to do it.
David Goggins has something like this. He calls it his mental cookie jar, and I've read his book probably nearly 2 years ago now. It's a great book, Can't Hurt Me, and he refers to this thing as his mental cookie jar, and it's basically all the things that he's accomplished previously. When he comes to a moment where he's running like an ultra marathon and he feels like just quitting, in his mind he visualizes this cookie jar, and each cookie represents a bit of motivation that he gets from remembering the things that he has accomplished. So like, he'll think about quitting and you think, no, I did this 3 months ago, I can keep going. And so he imagines himself having a little nibble of this cookie and he feels like re-energized and he can go again. And I just think that's just such a good mental framework to have, to
so good.
Remember the things that you have done and remember that you are capable of, keeping on doing more. And do you see this at all, like this kind of mentality amongst footballers or the people that you work with in your business?
Yeah, for sure. When you get to the higher standards, it's very rare for someone not to be pushing themselves to the limit. There are a few that are in football, especially, highly talented and don't want to push themselves to the limit, but that's few and far between. Most of them are really driving themselves. They're so competitive, to the point where there's constant arguments that occur on training pitches, not because they don't like each other, but because they want to win. And that comes with physical development as well. Like, they really, like, pre-season is the time where physical development happens very heavily, let's say, and it will be, majority of the time they can be being sick,
Yeah.
like fall into their knees. Like there's a real big push from them to be better and develop themselves, and you see it across the majority of footballers. So for sure, I mean they've got a big, like David Goggins' cookie jar there. They've got a big motivation inside them. They like playing in front of, knowing they're going to have to be fit to play in front of 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 people and show themselves as being high quality, playing the way the team should play, and also as good as they can. Means that motivation is high for them to be as fit as possible. I always think it's such a tough environment for them to be in. Like imagine you in your job, it's like a teacher or something, and the teacher has even two people watching them every time they do a lesson.
Yeah.
And because every time you get a lesson observed, or if you're at work and you're getting observed by your supervisor or something, suddenly the pressure ramps up a little bit and you're like, I need to do everything really well here. These guys have got 30,000 people watching them, plus also everyone writing reviews and commenting on social media about how rubbish they've played or how well they've played and so on. Like the pressure must be immense. I've never experienced it, obviously. I would have loved to, as I said earlier.
A previous guest I had on, Nathan Thompson, professional footballer at NK Dons, he spoke a lot about how much the game's just changed, and big part of that is just social media, how different it is for players and what good performance actually means to them now with such an interconnected society around them, and how much the pressure can just seep in and get to the heads. Is there, in your strength and conditioning coaching, would you say, some coaching that you've had to think about when being in one-to-one relationships with your players about keeping their mindset in check and making sure that they're checked in mentally?
Yeah, I think an S&C coach is valuable to any club because they spend a lot of time with the player, and then that ends up being the real close relationship. You tend to get like the science and medicine departments as being quite close to the players and reach into their brain a little bit more. They start to not just talk to you about their physical development, but how they're feeling on a Saturday, what's happening at home sometimes, and so on. So it's actually like you become a little bit of their psychologist as well, but not trained to be able to deal with it. So you end up just sort of like asking questions and hoping for the best. But yeah, for sure, it's not something that I can really like action, but I can be their rubber duck that we were speaking earlier, like ask them questions about it, get out, and allow them to have at least released some of their anxiety that they were thinking about, for sure. But yeah, the cognitive load of a football player is very high.
One thing I also wanted to ask you about, I forgot to ask you about it when we were talking about recovery, but what about like temperature exposure practices like sauna, steam room, but also cold plunge, cold shower? What kind of impact does that have on the strength and condition of the body?
So every football club, I'm pretty sure, would have all of those things. I would use sauna a lot. I think it's really important. There's some great studies out there about increasing mortality or decreasing mortality rate within the sauna, especially the more times you do it, it's actually the better. Like it's actually like a small little hit of, you get the same adaptations or the acute responses, sorry, of exercise when you go into a sauna. Like your heart rate increases, you sweat and so on. So even without exercising, going into sauna is quite a good benefit to the body. But alongside that, sauna is also very good for increasing like hypertrophy gains. So there is good research out there to suggest that going into sauna post gym allows for progressive hypertrophy alongside your gym work. And some would say the opposite occurs with an ice bath. So you actually dampen the adaptation when you go into an ice bath. So ice baths are meant for, in football wise anyway, would be if there is quick succession games and we need to recover the body and we don't need the adaptation to occur, then head into an ice bath for sure. If you want adaptation, then stay away from them and go into pool, sauna and so on for a more relaxing relaxing state.
Mm-hmm. For someone who's maybe mentally or physically stuck in wherever they are with whatever it is, what would you say to that person if they're trying to change not just their whole life around, but just start with the basics with, physical health? What would you say to that person to start changing things around?
I would say, I mean, the basics are always move a little more, like go out for a walk, like stick a walk into your day, be outside for sure. That's the real basics. If you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to play sport, making sure a meeting turns into a walk and talk rather than a sit down and talk.
Golf's a good option.
Golf's always a good option. Yeah, golf ruins a good walk, to be fair, especially in my life. And yeah, and then there's like progressing on from that. There's always ways of trying to push from like couch to 5Ks. Like the way that I would always approach it is trying to have some level of heart rate increase, which I said about this earlier. People get stuck between like strength and whether they should do cardio. I think both are so essential. I think every 5 kilos of hand grip strength that you drop down is an extra 15% of chance of mortality or something like that. So like hand grip strength is a real big correlation to life longevity.
Does the reverse work? Like if you increase your hand grip strength, because you can get those little things that make your hand stronger, does that in reverse
Yeah, so that is the
improve your longevity?
So the correlation of hand grip strength is just normally general body strength, because we know that it would affect osteoporosis. So your bones will you're fighting against bones weakening. In theory, by doing strength work, you're making sure the bones aren't weakening to a extended level. If you get above sort of like the 20, I don't know the exact age, but 20 to 25, your bones have got to like the point where they're going to be their strongest, maybe 30. And now it's just a downward slope, and you're trying to like resist that downward slope as much as possible by keep on doing strength work. So I guess it would be important, but the whole purpose of the hand grip dynamometer is that you can test strength of the body, just general strength, through something that's very simple and not technically you don't need to be technically proficient at something like a back squat to be able to test it. So the concept is be strong across your whole body. If you can be strong, then you're more likely going to have extra years on your life. Fingers crossed.
What's the most common mistake you see amongst the people that you work with?
Oh, yeah, we're getting more into like performance here. I think people don't, this is more performance oriented, but don't strengthen their, or they're not putting foundation, strength, or power into their ankles.
Right.
That's so. But if you're trying to run fast, then the first thing that contacts the floor is going to be ankles. You're putting like 2 to 3 times body weight through the ground when you're accelerating. When you're decelerating, you're going to put about 6 times body weight through the ground. And you're expecting the whole of, if you're just doing squats and hamstring curls to try and be able to deal with that, then you're forgetting about the lower leg, which is going to have to be the thing that contacts the ground first. If you want to get faster, there needs to be no energy leak within the ankle at all. And the amount of people that do not work anything to do with the ankle is crazy. No, you look around the gym and there's I can't remember the last time in the local gym I've seen someone do a calf race. And it's like, I know that the people there probably aren't trying to be athletes, and I understand that, but still, like walking, running, all are ankle based endeavors, and you got to make sure those ankles are strong.
Besides calf raises, what other antidotes are there to this mistake?
And like skipping is probably the easiest one to be able to do, like continuous skipping. Then you could talk about like, people in the athletic world, we're talking about pogos, where you're like pretty much skipping, but just to a higher level, like big bounces. Anything where, if I was at a low level and trying to progress myself, I start with isometrics. And isometrics is where you hold the body still in a certain position. So instead of doing a calf raise, hold yourself in that high calf raise and just hold that position, you're going to get that tension coming through the muscle. And the reason why an isometric is good is because it reduces the likelihood of like the eccentric nature of the muscle working, the contraction of the muscle, which is more damaging part. So you're really getting a neuromuscular drive to the muscle by doing an isometric, and over time that will build strength because that neuromuscular drive is happening with limited damage to the muscle or less risk of injury as well. So isometrics is the first place that I would go with anything related to quad, hamstring, glutes, calf, just to try and get that feeling of, oh, okay, I can feel it burning now. That's where isometrics are good.
A lot of people who are in the fitness world and want to improve their fitness and strength and whatever, they hold an ideal with this thing called the hybrid athlete. They have good cardiovascular endurance, good muscular endurance, they're strong, they eat well, and put them in any sport, they'd probably be able to perform at a decent level. But there's a trade-off, right? People who want to grow big muscles have to eat a lot of food, and it takes a lot of recovery. And like, I find this with myself, my leg day and me wanting to go out for runs, it just doesn't really work that well together. What's the best way to find balance with that?
Well, it's first of all like putting priorities in place. So sometimes you just, like we said earlier, if you're gonna not do something, then make sure you've got the priority of what you want to do first to be able to resist the others. But I tend to mold things together to help. So you have like anaerobic training, aerobic training in the sort of the heart rate realm, anaerobic, aerobic, and then long duration. They're the three that I always try and like fit into a 2-3 week cycle if I can. I'm trying to get them in every week, but it's hard. And so anaerobic would be like a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio. So if you work for 30 seconds, you expect to have a minute off. Like, so you're really working hard. Because you get so much rest, you're allowing their regeneration of the muscle to be able to then work really hard again. Whereas like an aerobic and the aerobic rather than anaerobic, because the aerobic training is all about sort of 1 to 0.5 work to rest. Like, I'm going to work for 4 minutes and then have 2 minutes rest. Right. So you're really creating waste products within the body. Your body's having to try and get rid of that waste product, and over time it's adapting to give you the enzymes to be able to offload that waste product. So if I was going to pick 2 things, I'd pick those 2 and stick at the start of my sessions. Do those for small amounts of time and then build into my leg days and my upper body days. I always prioritize heart rate over anything else. I think it makes you feel better. There's good hormone release. And especially if you're doing that anaerobic work, people talk about hill sprints all the time. Like, that's a really good thing to put inside your training program for leg days and upper body days, because you're going to get a decent testosterone and anabolic response from it. And it's the same concept that you can get from a salt bike or a sprint on the treadmill. It's the same thing. Like, an anaerobic push is going to get that same response to get the heart rate up and then go off and do your training. When I go in with my watch and try and get some heart rate response from my weight training, I don't get anywhere near as I do with my anaerobic work. And especially if I then go anaerobic before and then go into weight training afterwards, you get a real good response from the weight training. There's just sort of this trade-off that occurs. It's called concurrent training, and it's been shown in the research that concurrent training is really good for development. It's just, don't tire yourself out by going for an hour run before you then go in to do lowers. But I'd always trying to push the 2 together in my head.
What about cardio zones? Is it like, it's important to like zone 2, 3, 4? Like, where should we be placing our energy?
People talk about like the polarized effect. Like, you do time at zone 2 and then you do time at zone 4 and 5. If you're not running, if we're talking about running here or whatever you're doing, loads, then zone 2 is good for getting out there, spending a little bit of time doing the skill you're trying to improve. But in theory, if you're not putting loads of effort or loads of duration into your week, then just stick in the sort of zone 4 and 5s and stick to that anaerobic and that aerobic session plan of that 1:2 and the sort of 1:0.5 work to rest ratios, and then forget about the long duration. But then if you can put long duration in at zone twos, then crack on. But I would always prioritize the anaerobic and the aerobic first. But zone two is always fun, isn't it? Like, because you can talk whilst you go and do whatever. Like, sometimes you go out with friends and just do a little zone two run, you're chatting along, and it feels like you're doing exercise. Well, you are doing exercise whilst also socialising as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to add into the week.
So you're in a transition now. You've moved on from being a strength and conditioning coach at Southampton, and you're moving into business life. Tell us a bit about your business.
So it is just me as a performance coach or athletic development coach, I like to say. And my aim is for me to take what I used in the elite world, understood and learned through all of my 13 years at Southampton, and be able to bring it to people of the local area, but also I work online with individuals as well. My big motivation is to improve people's performance. That doesn't mean that they have to be an elite person. I work with pro athletes, but I also work with semi-pro, and I also work with amateur athletes. My main aim is if you want to develop yourself in some way, then I'm here to help. Trying to put like scaffolding around it, understand through assessments, like taking all of the elite assessments that they do at the football clubs, bring it into the local community for them to be able to understand. So speed assessments, power assessments, movement assessments, and then putting this individualized program together to make you better. I spend a lot of time with athletes, but I also spend time with like longevity in sport as well, like older individuals that want to stay playing sport for as long as possible. And we've had some real good effects from some of the training programs put together to keep that strength high. It means that they, rather than having knee pain in the lunges in tennis now, they're actually able to do it without any knee pain. So it's like this crossover between, I'm not a physio, definitely not, but I can put things in place from a physio mindset, building into strength and conditioning that can like stop you from feeling the pain and progressing. So there's this performance arm, and then this sort of like movement and control arm that I like to use. And then there's this continuum between the two that, depending on who you are and how good you are at movement, control, and power, I will put you along that spectrum and try and push you as high as possible to increase your speed, increase your power.
If you're in a situation where you could only leave one lasting sentence to everyone who's with you at SSC, who's signed up with you at SSC, what would it be? Take your time.
Yeah. It'll be something around consistent, like keep doing it. I think my aim is to educate them of how to train. A lot of the people that come to me are like, "Oh, I didn't even realize this was a thing." Like, you've made me open my eyes to this is important for running, or this is important to get faster. And they spend a bit of time doing it with me, learning how to do it, and then it allows them to continue doing it. If they're not with me, if they finish the block and they continue, then fine, but keep that consistency. It comes up all the time, doesn't it? Consistency is essential to development. I get a lot of good results in the 6-week blocks that I do with people, or the 8-week blocks that I do with people, and they do get power gains and so on. But if you just then stop, you're more likely going to head back to where you were before. So we need to keep it going in some way, or you need to keep it going in some way from what I've taught you. So stay consistent.
Brilliant. Sam, I just want to give you, before we finish up, an opportunity to just, where can we find SSC? What's the socials, website, etc.?
Yeah, so my company's called SSC Performance. The Instagram is SSC Performance Training, and the website is sscperformancetraining.com. And yeah, I work with everyone in the local area. I'm based in Winchester in the UK, but I also have online programming that I do across multiple different sports and different people who want to just, like I said, improve their performance and whatever. So yeah, it's going really well at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, people told me you try and make something that you enjoy doing 100% of your week, and that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, and it's starting to pay off. I definitely feel better for it and more energized for it, and so that's the important fact.
I'd say that's That's an alignment with purpose, is what I'd call that. Sam, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant.